Okay, we'll be looking at the genetic diseases, right? The first one mentioned in the syllabus learning outcome is Down syndrome, which is due to trisomy 21 or an additional chromosome 21, right? So this is aneuploidy, 2n+1, right? An additional chromosome 21, and the effect, I will just leave it to you, for you to read yourself, the effect of this aneuploidy, right? So these would be the symptoms of Down syndrome, right? So I'll leave you to read it yourself. Okay, as for the mechanism why Down syndrome or the trisomy 21 occurs, that's due to non-disjunction during either the meiosis process, if not mitosis process, also possible, right? And similarly, right, as mentioned in the last video, right, once you learn the mitosis and meiosis process, then this would make more sense to you. So I'm not going to explain the process now. So anyway, right, in this case, in my diagram, right, it is due to non-disjunction in meiosis, in the formation of gametes, gametes meaning the sperm cells or the egg cell, right? So you can see instead of so gametes are supposed to be haploid, with one set of chromosome, so one chromosome of each, from chromosome 1 all the way to the sex chromosome, all right? But you can see in my sample, right, there is an additional chromosome here. So this is the normal gamete. If you follow my cursor, this is the normal gamete, right? One piece of each chromosome, right? But then in the boxed up gametes, there's one extra chromosome, right? So if this extra chromosome is chromosome 21, then that would cause the zygote, which is the fertilized cell after fertilization, to have one extra chromosome 21. Then the individual that grow from this zygote with an extra chromosome 21 would have an extra chromosome 21. Right, so the individual that grow from this zygote would have Down syndrome, right? Okay, so there's quite a high frequency of Down syndrome actually in the world, and from studies, right, the Down syndrome probability would increase greatly once the mother hits the age of 35. So I'm not sure if there's a change in the rules, but when I was working in the hospital, so I worked in the hospital for a short while right before teaching, I was doing my final year project in the hospital. I was actually doing chromosomal studies in the hospital lab, and one of my job is to actually screen for Down syndrome, right? So during my time, right, unless there's a change of rules, right, it was mandatory for pregnant ladies above 35 to actually have a screening by my department. Yep. Then I remember just before Chinese New Year, I actually found babies with Down syndrome. So yeah, it was tough telling the mothers. But anyway, yeah, that's what I did before teaching for a short while. All right, and next we'll look at sickle cell anemia, which is a result of a gene mutation, right? So we call that your hemoglobin consists of 2 alpha globin and 2 beta globin, right? So in the gene that codes for the beta globin, if there's a mutation to this particular codon that cause a change in the codon from GAG to GUG, right, then there would be a change in the amino acid sequence of the beta globin, right, from the glutamic acid to valine. The property of these two amino acids are different, right? Glutamic acid is polar, but valine is non-polar. Right, so this change in the amino acid sequence of the beta globin would affect the property of the overall hemoglobin. Right, so the hemoglobin is slightly less soluble because of a change to a hydrophobic amino acid, and when there is low oxygen level, when the hemoglobin is not carrying oxygen, right, it will actually precipitate out of solution in the cytoplasm of the red blood cell, and once it precipitates, right, it will clump together to form rigid fibers. So if you imagine there are like presence of all these fibers in the red blood cell, it actually causes the red blood cells to change shape from the normal very circular disc shape, right, to a very elongated, slightly bent shape known as the sickle shape. That's why it's called sickle cell, right? And it's called anemia because these kind of vapor cells are actually very fragile and they would break down easily, causing a lowering of number of vapor cells in the blood, and that is anemia. So sickle cell anemia. All right. It is a homozygous recessive disorder, so sufferers must have two defective alleles. Okay, this is from genetics, so I'm sure you learned this in secondary school and it should make sense to you. If you haven't learned it in secondary school, then once we come to the genetic topic, then you will understand it better lah. So again, I don't want to go ahead and explain to you what alleles is and what's homozygous recessive. Right, so you learn it next time. All right, just keep KIV lah if you don't really know what all these terms are. All right. Okay, so that would be the two diseases mentioned in the learning outcome that you should know. And of course, questions in tests, in exams can ask you other diseases, but of course with context given, with the information on the mutations and the effect given to you lah, then you need to apply. Okay.